Welcome to this episode of One Soccer Direct. Mackenzie Barwell with you alongside Oliver Platt and Gareth Wheeler. We are fresh off of Match Night's best Canadian all-time 11, so we thought we'd check in. We thought we'd check in with some current men's national team players, give an update on how their seasons have started and some potential transfer rumors surrounding them. So we've got 3 players we want to highlight today, and we are going to begin, you guys, in Belgium, where Promise David cannot stop scoring. So far, so good for Promise. He scored in the Belgium Super Cup final shootout win, then again in the Champions League qualifying, and he registered a goal and an assist in Union's first league match of the season. So, Wheels, how important and what would a breakout season mean for Promise David?
Really interesting times for a number of Canadians in the transfer market, but Promise David heads that list. First of all, it's great to see him fully recovered, or at least seemingly fully recovered from that injury last season. We saw him at the World Cup, which I thought it was incredible he was there to begin with, able to contribute to a certain degree, scored a great goal at the World Cup as well. And it seems like he's back to Promise David's best. And it just comes at such an intriguing time, not only for his current club, but what it could mean for his future club. He's scoring in Belgium already. They're playing in the Champions League qualifiers. They drew Bodo Glimt 3-3, and the second leg is upcoming tomorrow. And I think that could go a long way to determining where exactly Promise David's future lays. Because if Union Saint-Gilloise ends up qualifying for the Champions League, I think that they'll be keen to and eager to keep hold of Promise David for that campaign. He's under a decent contract through 2029, so there's no urgency to sell a player like that, but they're a club that typically buys low and sells high. And with David on really good form, still at a really good age, reported interest from not only Germany, but England and other places as well. If the Champions League doesn't become reality for them this year, they might be more tempted if someone's willing to put $20 million or so on the table. So he's one to certainly watch. The fact that he's got off to a flying start to the season is just great news for him, but it adds that extra level of intrigue. Does his current form maybe raise the price tag to a point where Union Saint-Gilloise will be willing to sell? And at the same point, does it creep up to a number where clubs are just looking at his form right now, still thinking that there might be some value in the player? So I just don't think that there's any urgency from the player or the club's perspective. But depending on what happens against Bodo Glimt on Tuesday, could go a long way to determining whether he stays or goes.
Yeah, I mean, Will said, he looks back to his best. I think he might look a bit better, to be honest. Like he looks really good right now, and that's really good to see for a player who obviously had, an awkward injury and one that he really pushed himself to get back from. You just hope that there's no setbacks and he's properly recovered. But he looks fighting fit and has had a fantastic start to the season. So that's really exciting from a Canadian point of view. And if I'm Union Saint-Gilloise right now, like the report was a 14 million euro offer from Stuttgart, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But to me, like every game this guy plays right now, the price is going up. I wouldn't be in any rush to take an offer like that when you've got a player who's, scoring in the league, scoring a crucial penalty in the Super Cup, scoring in the Champions League as well. He just looks exceptionally good right now, to the point where beyond all the transfer speculation, and I think that will come for him if he continues to play in this way, like you start to wonder what his role is going to look like for Canada going forwards. And at what point Jesse Marsch has to look at this player and say, this isn't just a guy who I need to really start considering for my starting lineup, in competition with Larin and Oluwaseyi. But how much does he start to define how we play and a player that you actually build the attack around? Because right now, and we saw glimpses of it at the World Cup, I'm just not sure there's anyone who looks more of a goal threat consistently. His link-up play is improved a lot. He's creating chances for others as well. And for all his kind of power and pace and, how imposing he is, he's so cool in front of goal. Like he takes his chances so well. So it's a really complete package, it looks like right now. It's early in the season. Let's see how he continues to go. But this is really exciting stuff, I think, if you're a Canadian fan and for the player himself and his future.
The upcoming window is going to be really intriguing because I thought some of the selection patterns for the attack at the World Cup were strange. where David looked like, he wasn't probably in a position fitness-wise where he could start games, but the way that, not only the way he was used, but Kyle Larin looked like the next player that was in a position to score goals for that team. And he was on the outside looking in terms of selection as well. So, and I just wonder if Ali Ahmed's injury and, potentially Liam Miller, we'll see how that situation plays out. You might be a little bit thin in some areas. So to Ollie's point, as Jesse Marsh starts thinking outside the box, how can I get more attacking players on the field and maybe play in a little bit of a different way while keeping the same principles involved? Because right now, I mean, Promise David, when he was fit, wasn't seeing regular games, regular starts with Canada. But I think now has to be the time. And I just wonder if a transfer saga ends up drawing out where Jonathan David ends up leaving Juventus, whether he would be in a position to play a significant role in the upcoming window. But Promise David's form certainly mitigates any potential issues. And I think it just creates a really good situation for the player, the national team, and whatever potential club team he's going to play at for the duration of the season.
I mean, like, if you're an opposition coach, an opposition centre-back playing against Canada, who do you want to see the least right now in terms of attackers?
Promise David.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Like,
his personality is so funny. Can I also just, it's a great point. I was going to say, he's so fun to watch. He plays with so much joy, and he's one of the most unserious guys on the team, I find, at least from being at training during the World Cup. Really great guy, friendly giant from what I could tell being up close. But still, to your point, Ollie, scary to see him coming at you as a defender right now. Let's move on to a cornerstone to Canada's back line, and that is Alistair Johnston, because Everton's pursuit of this player could be at a crossroads. Obviously, they're in desperate need of a right back, but the Celtics are asking for a price that may be a little too high. Reports indicate Celtic want upwards of £15 million to sell the 27-year-old Canadian. Ollie, would you pay that asking price if you're Everton?
Yeah, I think I would. And I don't really know what they're doing, delaying and kind of messing around with this. I never understand it. And I understand there's kind of financial considerations that clubs, have to be careful with how much they spend and staying within the rules nowadays in the Premier League. But if you can get a deal done early in the window, get a player integrated, have him for your preseason, and you pay $1 million or two more than what it might cost you, what you might ideally want to pay. Is that not a price worth paying at some point? I just think this one makes too much sense to me not to happen. I think he's exactly the kind of player who I think would do well under David Moyes. He's we know Alistair Johnston. He plays with a ton of spirit and a ton of heart. He's also got a lot of quality. I think he'd fit in well at that club. And they are in desperate need of a right back. They've only got one right now in Nathan Patterson, who only started 3 Premier League games last season. It looks like he's on the way out. Seamus Coleman, who's been the long-term right back there, has left, and they're having to ask other players to fill in at right back at the minute to plug that gap. So it's a position Everton need to fill. Johnston, to me, with the body of work he's built up with Celtic, playing at a high level in the Champions League and with Canada, I think is good enough to play at the Premier League level. He's still a decent age. The price isn't outrageous. It just seems to tick a lot of boxes to me, and I'm surprised it's kind of dragged on and delayed this far.
Yeah, well, I think it's all about the price. That's it. And Johnston doesn't seem like a guy that's going to aggressively push for a move. Like, it just seems like he's a stand-up guy, and he's going to allow the process to play out. Sometimes when players, have potential Premier League football in their future, they're willing to be a little bit more aggressive in their position. But I think Johnston respects the club, respects his position at the club, and he's not going to do anything to kind of ruin that. But I just go back to where's Celtic's motivation to sell? Unless it's a number that's simply put, they just can't turn down. So it's going to be an offer that's going to be too good to refuse. That's going to see him leave the club. For me, again, he's still under contract through 2028, I believe. It's club friendly. He's well liked there. He's a foundational piece of everything that Martin O'Neill and the club has going on right now. So that number, kind of like the Promise David situation, I think that's going to determine whether they sell or not. Unless Johnston does take, like I mentioned, a harder stance, which is really kind of hard to see. But I mean, this would be a dream move. It's kind of a no-lose situation for Johnston right now, because he stays at a really important club where he's a really big deal and he can contribute. It's a good situation that he finds himself at right now. But anytime that Premier League football is in the offing. I mean, it's kind of like for a lot of players, it's maybe a once in a career opportunity. So it's something that if the opportunity does present itself where a reasonable offer is on the table, and it'll be interesting to see what Johnston's position on that would be. Remember, he only signed for Celtic. I think it was like about $3.5 million. So, I mean, what's the number that we're talking right now? Is it the $15-16 million range? Would that be enough to make Celtic sell? I mean, that would probably be a hard number to turn down if you're Celtic at this point, but then they got to go out and replace him. So, I mean, I think in the $15 million range, at least it would have to be in order to be of any interest to Celtic to go on and make that move.
Yeah. All right, you guys, let's move on to our third and final player here. Another guy who really grabbed the attention of a lot of Canadians during the World Cup after fighting through some injury to play some meaningful minutes, and that is Moise Bombito, because there is a fire sale at Nice because this League One club is looking to raise another 30 million euros this summer and are said to be potentially shopping Moise Bombito. Gareth, what league or club do you think might be the right fit for him?
Well, first of all, this makes me very nervous being a Manchester United supporter. The fact that Ineos is having a fire sale, but perhaps this has wider spread ramifications, them trying to relinquish or sell off Nice as a property in order to help float any new stadium deal or any ambitions that they have with Manchester United at this time. So it's certainly an alarming situation because the club 2 years ago was in such a good place. They were playing European football. It seems like there'd been some continuity under Ineos, that they were going to be able to kind of move the club forward so they could be regular contenders in Liga, and it's completely gone sideways. Club Puel, I believe, is back being the manager, and it looks like they're in a position to sell off players. I don't know what the motivation would be to sell Moise Bombito at this time if I was Nice, because he missed all of last season. I don't think that you're going to be selling at a high watermark. He's got to come back and play regular football this year. Yes, he's a good age. Yes, he's a club record signing. Yes, we all understand how good he is, but I just don't think that is the move that you make, especially considering he's locked up to a long-term deal as well. But much like the other scenarios, if a club is willing to come in for Bombito and pay big cash, then clearly the club's in a position where they're trying to relinquish some of those high-priced assets, bring some money in, make the club that much more lean, which would open up to perhaps a potential sale. I just don't like this situation for Bombito, to be honest with you. You don't want to be in any situation where instability kind of is the overarching theme. And that's what it seems like it is right now. So whether he stays or goes, I think it's a difficult time for Bombito. I do think that if there's an opportunity to leave based upon what's going on at the club, then it's something that Bombito and his representation should push for right now, because you want to be in a position where you know where things stand. You're having a stronger team built around you rather than kind of removing the deck chairs and seeing where it goes from there. So it's not a great turn of events for Bombito, especially coming off, which was like a season out through injury. You kind of wanted to see much more consistency in terms of his club football. So not great times for Bombito, but you got to trust the player and his ability at this point. And hopefully he finds a new home where he can actually go and thrive and lay down roots and be part of a positive situation.
Yeah, it would seem like a strange time to me to sell him. I think you'd be selling low after a major injury off a player who could potentially have a lot of value if he can get back on the pitch and playing the way that he was. But it's just been one of the, it's been a challenge, I think, for the entire French league in recent years. And we've seen it affect some Canadian players at times. I think Ligue 1 has been a great destination for a lot of Canadian players, particularly a lot of Francophone players, obviously. But the league has had a tough time. They had their TV deal fall apart. They've had a lot of difficult ownership situations. It's not just Nice. You've seen Lyon, you've seen Lille have financial problems that have affected those clubs. So my read on this one was a bit less that Bombito is up for sale, more that like everyone has their price at Nice right now because they need to raise some cash. So that could be Bombito, that could be anyone else. But to me, I think it would make more sense to try and get back on the pitch after your injury and for player and club, build yourself back up, build your value back up, and then see what the future might hold for Moise Bombito longer term.
Just depends how deep those cuts are. Like, does Bombito want to be part of that situation? Like, the club stood by him, helped him through his injuries. Obviously, Nice is a fantastic place to be. So it's not a negative situation from that perspective, but you just want to know what the state of the club is. And you want to understand that the team that you're part of is kind of moving in the right direction, and it isn't, in a chaotic place. It doesn't seem like they're absolutely there, but there's just a lot of elements involved in the equation, from the sporting director to the manager to the club's finances to the future. There's a lot of elements there that bring unease to the situation. That's certainly not what you want to see if you're Moise Bombito.
Well, you guys, we won't have to wait much longer to see the Canadian men's national team back in action. They've got 3 games in that September-October window, beginning with a match against Chile in Toronto, then against Peru in Montreal, and finishing up with a trip to Minnesota to face the USA. All games, of course, can be seen right here on One Soccer.